Good afternoon, everyone. Right, we are here as usual to look at the coming week's energies. That's going to be running from the 10th to the 16th of November. I hope you're all well. I am not. I am well enough to be moderately more productive than I was, but not well enough to be happy about anything. I think is probably the best way to describe it. Right, we've got we've got a bit of a build-up of energy going on at the moment, and I was hoping to show you exactly what that looked like. But I mean, what the fuck is going on with my printer right now? Right, well, we're in Mercury retrograde. Although, despite me thinking that it was today, the day that I'm recording this, which was the 9th of November, when Mercury stations retrograde. According to the charts that I've just looked at, it actually doesn't happen until tomorrow. So by the time you're watching this, it's Monday 10th at least anyway. Stationing in the sign of Sagittarius and not actually getting back to Scorpio. What's here? The 19th of November. There's quite a lot going on in the sky, but I can't really fucking show you because, like, what the fuck is even this? I don't know. It's been a good printer. It's lasted for a long time. I don't know if this is an imaging drum problem or a Mercury retrograde problem or whatever. This is next to useless, except for the fact that you can kind of see the shapes that are forming in the sky. And that's the thing that I wanted to bring your attention to really more than anything else. If you are not a water sign, can you please go check on your water signs and see if they're okay? Because I know that a lot of astrologers have been like, oh, there's this amazing water trine going on at the moment. And there is, like, it is amazing. And we've got kite formations going on as well at the moment, which is great. But anecdotally speaking, like literally every water sign I know right now is really going through the fucking mill. I spent yesterday talking to a friend of mine who is very watery, trying to help him with some stuff. Basically, I've been fielding breakdowns from water signs everywhere, and this is obviously something very important. It's obviously something that needs to happen, but again, I would draw attention to the fact that each one of us has a water sign house somewhere in our chart, and depending on how that is, it's the word that I'm even looking for. Depending on how that is oriented, is probably going to indicate whether or not you feel like you're functioning properly at the moment. I would say, I've got a Pisces daughter and Pisces friends, and they're going through the mill. Cancer friends going through the mill. Can't think of any Scorpios off the top of my head that are going through the mill, but they simply haven't reached out yet, and everybody seems to be reaching out and going to help. So if you have water sign friends, just check in on them, see if they're okay, because this is very fucking intense. And this chart here, which is for November, doesn't really give us any sense. 19th of November doesn't really give us any sense that this is kind of letting up in any kind of meaningful sense. In fact, if anything, it's going to intensify because we're going to have Mercury retrograde at the 29 degrees of Scorpio there, plus the Sun, the Moon, Venus, Lilith. We also have here at 29 degrees Uranus and Taurus. That's going to feel kind of seismic, I think. We've got Saturn and Neptune in the sign of Pisces right here, and we've got Jupiter at the bottom, the great benefic and all that. Potentially really amplifying these feelings that everybody's having, and not necessarily in a way that feels particularly fucking useful, if I'm honest. Remember, although Jupiter is the great benefic, what Jupiter does is expand. So if you're feeling like you're a little bit overwhelmed, then in all likelihood, Jupiter is got a part to play in that, and it probably will, keep expanding that. The experience of Jupiter expanding something isn't always necessarily comfortable, and I think quite a lot of people are uncomfortable, particularly if they are very sensitive and watery in nature. So that's my public service announcement for the water signs right now. And why wouldn't the printer pack up? It's like everything else is doing what it's doing at the moment, right? So let's give these cards a shuffle and have a look and see what's coming up. Again, also, apologies for the November readings not being up yet in their entirety. Doing what I can, but it's thank you for your well wishes. I appreciate that. I wish I could say like I am fighting fit. I'm just not. I'm really just not, and my Sag is not, and that's a whole thing in and of itself, because Sages don't like being ill. So there's a whole like level of frustration that goes in with that as well. And here, yeah, like I'm doing my best. I will be with you as soon as possible, right? 4 and 3, 2, 1. So let's have a look and see the energies of the week from the 10th to the 16th of November. We have the 4 of Cups. We have the Knight of Wands and the King of Swords. Well, straight from the off, it seems like that this would be, as tempting as it is, a very bad time to kind of allow ourselves to slide into I can't even think of the word. What is the word that I'm looking at? Escapism. It's a really bad week to escape into escapism, and the temptation is going to be there. It's there for everyone. I think, the idea that we can just sort of put something off because we don't really feel like it. The Knight of Wands at the bottom of in the center of the reading, and the Ace of Pentacles sitting at the bottom of the deck is it feels like it's a push to push through, stay present with and push through whatever feels uncomfortable at the moment. Because the dominant energy, really, well, aside from the Ace, the dominant energy on the table here is the King of Swords. The King of Swords counsels for objectivity and good judgment, and making sure that we are weighing things up from a factual point of view rather than a deeply emotional point of view. Now, with the prevailing energies being what they are at the moment, I mean, that is like pushing water uphill with a fork. It's that fucking hard, right? And yet that's where we're asked to be as best we can manage this week. The Ace of Pentacles entreats us to try and focus on things, right? You'll understand by now that the way that I see Pentacles is all about energetic currency, right? So what you invest in terms of your time, your care, your effort, your money, your love, your attention, your energy generally, right? Whatever you focus on, that becomes in and of itself a pentacle. And the idea behind it, I don't know if I've ever really said this, is the fact that the pentacles represent value. And if we're going to amplify the value, given that our attention has a weight and has a value, it's the most precious thing that we have, actually, then when we start focusing on it, this is where growth happens, right? So the Ace of Pentacles is saying, I know it's very tempting to slide into escapism. It's very tempting to slide into this state of, well, maybe I'll just put this off for a little bit longer because I don't really feel like it. And yet it is in that state that we are being asked to kind of push a little bit. There's no way of cutting it, really. That's a pretty uncomfortable state, because the escapism, it performs some aspect of a stabilization, right? It implies to me that everybody is feeling overwhelmed as fuck right now. I certainly, again, anecdotally, I can certainly align with that. And the weird thing is, right, I have things I always have fucking things going on, right? There's always a chaotic whirlwind that is swirling around me somewhere. That's just kind of par for the course. But it's the extent to which the people around me seem to be struggling and suffering that seems to be amplifying the intensity of this. Like, literally, no less than 3 people had total fucking breakdowns at me yesterday. I woke up this morning and there's 2 more messages from 2 different other people also having breakdowns. I have no issue with fielding that. That's not a problem. But it does rather make me think that this is it feels suffocating this time, right? And the worst thing that we can do, I think, is let the water go over our head. And that's what I'm seeing here. It's like, no, you have to haul yourself out of this. Not because there is anything inherently bad in feeling the feelings, but it's that the feeling of the feelings is so fucking intense that actually we may end up, catapulting ourselves as far away from the issue as possible, so we don't have to feel the intensity of these feelings and try and regain some sort of element of control this week. And that would be the equivalent of putting concrete boots on ourselves and jumping into the water. Like, that's not a helpful thing to do. So there is a place where we must occupy that is balanced, if you will, between, allowing the feelings to be felt, but also sort of letting that happen in the background while we are focusing our executive attention on those things that require some element of problem solving or judgment over. Again, the King of Swords is very much what is objectively real, what is objectively right, what is objectively useful for me at this time, and what objectively is the position that I can sit in this week that doesn't stop any of the flow of emotion, but also doesn't risk me drowning in it. And I feel like this week is particularly important for that because it's the week before we have this very intense pile-up in Scorpio, opposed by Uranus, fucking anchored in place by Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, and then Cancer over here fielding Gemini. Gemini? What the fuck? Fielding Jupiter, right? That's a lot. It's very intense. It's overwhelming. It's too much. It's all these kind of things. Like, it's about struggling to find the grounding point and struggling to find the objectivity, maybe the bird's eye view. Maybe that's what I'm actually trying to speak about here, the bird's eye view of the situation. Because there is a level of detachment that is involved when you start looking at the bigger picture rather than the smaller picture that you're feeling is fucking waterboarding you right now, right? Interesting thing. I don't know if you will find this interesting, right? But when I was doing my degree, I wrote my dissertation in the field of international law around torture and the legal framework that was put in place by the states in order to make this happen. Now, I was going to touch on extraordinary rendition and things like that as well, but actually I had to keep the focus of the dissertation very narrow, right? So I looked at the legal framework within which, shit like Abu Ghraib and all that sort of stuff happened. And one of the things about that is waterboarding, which is something that was used by the United States extensively. I remember reading about one dude who was waterboarded something like 82 times in 3 days or something. I don't know. Anyway, the fear of drowning is the thing that is tortuous about that, right? The sensation that we might be drowning is the tortuous part of that. The risk of you actually drowning is pretty fucking minimal, all things considered. And it's that I'm seeing here. It's like everything that you're feeling, it's just discomfort. Perhaps it rises to the level of torture. Maybe we could perceive it that way. But there is actually no fear of you drowning here. So the bigger picture is, that there is something that is being forced through here. And can you sit with the discomfort enough to allow it to happen? Because on the other side of things, there's Ace of Pentacles, the Knight of Wands. It's kind of really focusing your attention to the here and now. Ace of Pentacles is focusing attention. And the King of Swords is, what is the bird's eye view of this? Because where we're feeling waterboarded, sorry to go off on a whole torture tangent on you here, but like where we're feeling waterboarded, that very much is the worm's eye view. And I think part of the, if we extend the metaphor, the escapism that I was talking about right at the beginning there is actually the worm retreating and going deep underground away from where the fucking water is so that it doesn't drown. That's the kind of sucking away from what actually requires our attention. Let's get some fucking clarifiers out here because it's interesting. I'm going to go with the Tarot of the Abyss. Here it is. Because it's quite the thing that you're being asked to pull off this week against a very, very uncomfortable, very, very intense backdrop. Now, it is entirely likely that this intensity is playing out in your private life somewhere. Certainly it is for the people that I spoke to. Definitely within the arena of relationships as well, which would not be that strange with you know, Cancer and Pisces being involved, and to a lesser extent Scorpio, I guess, as well. But I wonder if this is something that is expanding this week. I don't know. Let's have a look, because I've talked a lot here about the Knight of Wands, the King of Swords, the Ace of Pentacles. We haven't really touched on the Four of Cups, and I think that the Four of Cups is somewhat potentially the pivot point here. It is Cancerian energy. And obviously Jupiter is there at the moment as well. So we've got, you know, all the things that we talk about in terms of the Four of Cups, like abandonment, rejection sensitivity. That one is fucking massive. That has come up across the board with everyone. I'm speaking to my water sun sign friends here. But the reason why this is so important is because it is speaking to the thing that stops us showing up as who we are, right? That rejection sensitivity. If I show up as my authentic self, if I volunteer the fact that I am totally fucking overwhelmed and I don't know what to do, then, you know, the high probability of making the wrong fucking decision about something because I am emotionally overwhelmed, you know, at every single point along that path, there is the potential for the people that I really care about to go, fuck is wrong with you, you know? And I think it's helpful to recognize that everybody is experiencing this to some degree or another. Now, if your chart is mostly fire or your chart is mostly air, the chances are that you're experiencing a greatly reduced version of this energy. But then recall that we all have a house that is ruled by Pisces, Scorpio, or Cancer in our chart somewhere. It is highlighting those areas as connected and, you know, possibly where the work is, right? Now, if we can feel our emotions, if we can recognize that we're overwhelmed, if we can stand in that without fear of presenting our authentic self, even if it is dizzy and chaotic and confused and all these kind of things, then I think it's much easier to carry that, to carry ourselves through that state, accept it for what it is, and go, well, that's what's going on over here, but I'm going to focus on these things because I can, because I'm making myself. The Four of Cups is something truly foundational because it is a full. Right? It is our emotional foundation. That's right. Page of Wands, Ace of Pentacles. Notice that that's coming out in the reverse. Somebody kicked off on one of the fucking videos on YouTube and went, the noise that the cards made was awful. I'm like bouncing my head off a wall constantly. Interestingly, not really representing a point of rejection sensitivity to me now, because I'm just like, what's something else then? Like, everybody's so quick to fucking judge. Everybody's so quick to throw their opinion in. So quick to express their displeasure at this point. And what does that really add to anything? Nothing. I feel like it's water off a duck's back at this point. Knight of Wands, Queen of Cups with the Five of Wands. Yeah, that's Cancerian energy there. Tell me about this King of Swords, please. We have two cards. We've got the Eight of Swords and we've got the King of Pentacles, right? So we've got Taurus, Uranus, although not quite yet. That hasn't happened yet. We've got the King of Swords, Aquarius. That's where Pluto is right now. Queen of Cups, Cancer. Four of Cups, Cancer. Six of Cups, Scorpio. Like, we're being pushed really deep into things that are uncomfortable because there's an emotional underpinning that's getting an overhaul here. And I guess I've been fucking chuntering on for 21 minutes now, and I think the point that I'm trying to make is the deepest part of your emotional foundation is being overhauled. It is deeply fucking uncomfortable. And what seems to be emphasizing or even exaggerating the discomfort is seeing the extent to which everybody seems to be fielding this in one way or another, successfully or unsuccessfully. I think a really beautiful part of that is the fact that people are reaching out for help, or they're reaching out with an authentic, kind of emotional response and saying, I don't know if this is right or not, but this is how I feel. Your emotions are valid, but they may not be telling you the truth. So focusing on the objectivity and focusing on what is actually true in the here and now, what is objectively correct, seems to me to be the saving grace of this week, whilst simultaneously allowing whatever is churning away emotionally in you to be renewed, overhauled, changed. And all of this happening while we've got Mercury going into retrograde. Now, Mercury represents essentially, our worldview, because it represents the how we choose to process information. That's being overhauled right now because Mercury is in retrograde, right? But whatever decisions our conscious mind thinks that it is making, there's a strong emotional underpinning that is working much, much faster in processing our world, processing what people are saying to us, processing what we feel about that, right? The subconscious, the emotional response, it's the stronger of the two. And certainly at this time, we could lose ourselves in it unless we choose to have a look and see what our emotions are trying to pull us away from. And I think that's probably very, very strong, right? Because of these clarifying cards that have come down here. So we notice that the Ace of Pentacles is in reverse. The Four of Cups does not want you to put any effort into anything that is not emotional this week. And maybe some astrologers will tell you that you should be focusing on emotional stuff. I disagree. I violently disagree. I am a natural contrarian though, so it might be something to do with that. Like, I feel like everything that is emotional is going to feel like it is dragging us to its point of absolute, stasis, where we have no choice but to drown in it. And I would counter that by saying no. Like, we can choose not to do that. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be uncomfortable. We have to kind of push into it a little bit, because, the natural flow of energy is pushing everything towards the emotional. I don't think that you need to add more grist to that mill. It's already fucking overwhelming. Are you going to add to that? So despite the fact that the Four of Cups and the energy of the Four of Cups doesn't want us looking in that way, it's not really supporting it, it's suggesting that this is very hard. Nevertheless, the Page of Wands this is something that we need to be prepared to do. And prepare to be so entirely present that you can recognize where your emotions may contradict each other, where your emotions may actually run counter to what you think you consciously think. Remember that the retrograde motion of planets is not an exercise in kicking the shit out of you. It's really important that we understand that. The fact that it is Mercury that is in retrograde is saying that the way that we think is the thing that is getting overhauled. It's in Scorpio, so it's running very deep, and it does have an emotional component to it. But it's almost like the recognizing how many of your emotions, whether they are accurate or not, absolutely valid, but may not necessarily be accurate. Excuse me. Is the facility by which we make decisions, that we decode the world around us. Everything comes down to whether we feel good about it or whether we feel bad about it or whether we feel fairly ambivalent about it, somewhere in between. Yeah. And this is getting ready to be completely fucking present and hold emotions at the same time as employing this rather analytical bird's eye view of what is going on that is completely fucking in conflict and contradictory, as we see down here with the Five of Wands and the Queen of Cups. The Five of Wands is Saturn in Leo. Excuse me. It is a card of conflict. It is a card of things not being straightforward. It is a card of struggle, ultimately. And where are we struggling? We are struggling in the emotional place. Now, as much as it is tempting to wade into a river that we perceive has silt fucking everywhere, the water is cloudy, and try and do our best to kind of settle all of that down to return the water to its state of clarity that it was at before, we know from experience that wading into that stream quite often is going to make the problem worse. We've got to allow that to settle in its own time, because there isn't... I struggle with these kind of digitally related words, right? But there is an upgrade of something that is going on here. There is an entire shift that is going along on the emotional underpinnings, the foundations of who we are. And as tempting as it is to wade into that and try and assist, it's time to take the bird's eye view this week. It's like, observe yourself. Pay attention to the objective, the rational, the reasonable, the logical, and see where it is not playing out in real time in your emotional responses to anything right now. Now, I understand that for a lot of us who have been working on ourselves for a long time, we are looking at the situation and going, what the actual fuck? How could this possibly be the case? I've put so much fucking work in. Well, this is the nature of a consciousness upgrade, right? We've done the best with the tools that we had available at the level of consciousness that we were operating at that time. But as the upgrade happens, as the evolution happens, so we get exposed to new things, new pillars of support are formed, old ones are kicked away, and then it is for us to work out what that actually means. Mercury. Rather than trying to shape it ourselves or settle it ourselves, right? Let the feelings happen and decode, rather than trying to make sense of things that are by definition actually probably lacking any kind of sense right now. Now, like I said, these 5 people that I've been talking to in the last 2 days, all water signs, probably feeling this much more acutely than other people. But again, there's a real sense of being really stuck in it, and if we can surrender to the idea that we are really stuck in it and that's okay, and then move our attention up here to look down on the situation, I think we'll probably all see where, like I said, where the conflict is happening, but also where the bigger picture is going on here. Like anything that changes your worldview generally has some sort of emotional thing attached to it, right? Because the emotions dictate which part of the brain is involved in this decoding, whether this is a conscious thing or whether this is an unconscious thing. And then from there, the mind decides what it's going to do about it. Queen of Cups is a beautiful card. It's a beautiful energy, but it can be a completely suffocating energy too, right? In its negative expression, it can be just either really fucking cold or it can be smothering. It can feel like you can't quite get the air to breathe. Queen of Cups is like a well-intentioned waterboarder, right? We notice here that this is where the chaos is. This is where the struggle is this week. And the Knight of Wands, again, like I'm saying, is like, allow yourself to be there. It's fine. But it's time to start employing attention as to where there are things that are going on with you that are incongruent with the kind of person that you want to be, the way you want to conduct your relationships, the way you want the rest of your life to run. Simply observe them, because observing is processing, right? Now, the King of Swords is very, very helpful here, because this 8 of Swords and King of Pentacles that's we've got going on here, I think it has a lot to do with the kind of future that we want to build for ourselves, and this absolute fucking brick wall that so many of us seem to have hit, where it's like, we don't have a map, we don't know what's going on, everything's falling down, what the fuck do we do from here? Right? The King of Pentacles wants a plan, because he has to retro-engineer the steps that are necessary for him to take to achieve that success by way of reference to the success, the end result, the thing he's trying to build, right? When he knows what he's trying to build, nothing is left to chance, right? It's not, there is no spontaneity there with the King of Pentacles. It's like, no, I am disciplined, I am committed, I am working to this end goal. That's what that energy is there. Without something to reference, The King of Pentacles doesn't know what to do. And we see that here in the Eight of Swords. The Eight of Swords is saying, well, I'm feeling stuck. I'm feeling trapped. You know, I might have a vague idea of what I would like the future to be like. But if you ask me to be specific, such that I could work out how the fuck I'm going to navigate there, I'm going to come up empty. I think all of us are there. I think some of us have vague plans about what we'd like the future to hold and the degree of success that we experience in doing that. But everything about this week is actually feeling like it's angled towards dragging your attention away from or situating your attention in a position that makes you feel powerless, rather than seeing that this is an opportunity to see the change, the evolution, the progression from the bird's eye view, because the King of Swords is always going to take the bird's eye view on everything. And if we can do that this week, then the bird's eye view, looking down, looking for the logical, the rational, the reasonable, the things that actually make fucking sense, such that we can go, well, that's a true thing. We can work like that. And even critical thinking and whatnot. If Mercury is in retrograde, then something about our plan, something about the way we think, something about the way that we communicate, it's all up for change. Can we see what that is changing into? No, because that involves a projection of consciousness that we haven't achieved yet. Right? We're in the process of changing that. But we can consciously decide, choose, make the decision that we will look at this from the top-down view and recognize that if there is one fact that remains solid through everything, it's that nothing stays the same. So that means when you are in a position that feels completely fucking intractable, when you are in a position that feels like it is waterboarding you, right? You have that fear of fucking drowning in the watery energy of the moment. The King of Swords can help us with that top-down view, kind of regain something that is a little bit more grounded and a little bit more connected up here and through there than this tidal wave of emotion that we're all experiencing right now. Because the beauty of the Eight of Swords is the fact that it indicates it's the way that we're thinking about this situation that is the problem. It may well indicate then that it is the retrograde. This is the whole fucking point of the retrograde, and it's the whole point of this water trine that's happening right now. Is for us to recognize that to some extent or another, we are all slaves to our own emotions. And it is only with conscious intervention that we can shift that and see the emotions as a tool rather than the driving force behind everything that we do. Because there's nothing even remotely rational to be found in our emotions at this time. And there's a lot, I think, that over the course of the next couple of weeks, from the end of this week onwards, is going to be sifting and sorting itself into a new position in our head, where a new foundation is being created. If we can just sit with the discomfort for long enough not to fall into escapism and not trying to control or dictate to ourselves how we should feel. That's a big ask. It's a really fucking big ask. Particularly when emotionally it's trying to drag us in the opposite direction. We have to find a way to center ourselves in a state of emotional discomfort long enough to allow what is observed to change form, long enough for us to recognize that it is the way that we have been thinking about something that has been the problem. Maybe the way that we've been thinking about things is what the fuck do we do next? What the fuck am I building? I don't know what it is. I think so much of the energy this year has just been about keeping fucking moving, right? Even when everything has felt like it ground to a halt. And I mean, it's November 2025. This year feels like it's been one of the longest years of my fucking life. I'm not even gonna lie. At the same time, I've blinked and we're in fucking November. Like, what is that about? And throughout it all, we've had to just keep plodding forwards, even though we haven't had a map, even though we don't know where we're going, even though we absolutely don't know how we feel about it. And whether or not we're going to get to a point where all of this is going to make the kind of crystalline sense that we would like it to make, where everything is predictable and logical and takes this next step forward, which is probably not going to happen, right? Let's be honest. Can you keep moving forwards anyway? There is a likelihood that plans that have been made will change. right? Between now and the end of November, there is a likelihood that things that we felt were life or death important are actually just going to kind of ebb away a little bit. And those things that we overlooked are going to increasingly become more important. And it is what it is. I think the more upset we allow ourselves to get about it, the more we're kind of assisting with the waterboarding. I haven't spoken about the Six of Cups, but I hope you can see where this kind of fits into it. Again, Scorpio, things that run deep, but notice that the memory that is giving him this solemn face here is located in his head. The idea being that the emotions are projecting the consciousness that is experiencing whatever is going on right now. Or the memory of the emotions is projecting the consciousness. Everything is fucking changing. And we can be swept away in a deluge of our own fucking confusion right now. And like, I haven't even fucking mentioned it, but like Neptune is back at 29 degrees Pisces and it's going to sit there until Neptune stations direct and moves back into Aries again. I don't know necessarily if that's going to be too enjoyable a thing, but it's there. So we're sitting at the anaretic degree of Pisces, which is kind of peak surreality. It's peak ocean energy. It's peak, everything watery. And there's all of this other stuff going on at the same time. Saturn is also there as well. Like washing away the foundation, washing away the limitations, washing away the edges, washing away our Four of Cups, our Six of Cups, whatever they may be. Now, what follows from that, by definition, will be an entirely different way of seeing the world, an entirely different way of witnessing ourselves, witnessing our own processes, an entirely different way of wrestling with what the fuck is the point of us being here in the first place, But it's a necessary upgrade. Because otherwise it's simply just a perpetuation of what has been. And planets don't sit at anaretic degrees for things to stay the same. No, in all likelihood, what this Four of Cups represents and the Six of Cups represents actually is our weddedness, our marriage to our past script, our past narrative, our past trauma, our past everything that we've ever had an emotional connection to. And it's changing. It's a tidal wave. It's or is it a sponge over the face? Are we actually going to drown? No, because everything changes. Nothing stays the same. This period of intensity that is running through this week and the following week, and probably, to be fair, the week after, is a temporary situation that is giving us an opportunity for extraordinary growth if we can separate ourselves enough from it to recognize that we're not our emotions, and whatever our emotional perspective is and all the thought processes that flow therefrom, whatever that is, it doesn't necessarily, and probably doesn't at all, bear any reality to a kind of universal objective truth. And so in order for that to get a little closer, to peel away a layer of the onion, to get closer to the universe consciousness, the substrate of the universe, we have to slough off, we have to shed what is no longer for us. And that's very, very little to do with what's going on outside of you, and everything to do with what are the building blocks of what's going on inside of you. It's like the experience of everything is turned up to 11 internally right now. And maybe to a degree that's being matched externally by the situation that you find yourself in. But if Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces tells us anything, it's that none of that really is real. And it's about locking in now on that bird's eye view this week. Waters recede. Water always finds its level. Whatever happens will happen in the time frame that it needs to happen. That's the next 3 weeks. And after that, we'll have a much clearer idea of what it is that we're supposed to do about it. I think that's everything that I have to say on the matter. I am delighted to report that suddenly the sun has come out, which has been pretty fucking absent for the last few days. So, everything that you're feeling, it's valid, but it may not be accurate. And it certainly won't be accurate when you look back in 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks' time. And you just got to keep walking forwards, All right, I'm going to leave it then there. Thank you again for your patience with me. It is not taken for granted. I know I'm sucking pretty hard at the moment, but like I am sucking pretty hard at the moment. Full stop. So I shall do my best over the next 2 years to rectify it. 2 years? Wow, fuck. What a commitment. I mean, yes, anyway, but I actually meant the next 2 days to rectify that situation. Yeah, thank you for your patience. All right, know that I love you all very, very much. And seriously, nothing lasts forever. And definitely not this, you know? Just got to ride the wave, ride the storm. Keep breathing. Remember, you're not going to drown, you know? All right, take care, and I'll see you soon.